Welcome to A Marvelous Life. I'm Nashology, and today we will be continuing the story of the 2005 New Avengers series. However, this is part 2, so do yourself a favor. Go back and watch part 1 if you haven't already. Now, for those of you feeling a bit lazy, I will do a quick summary of the events so far. After 2 long years of being broken up, the Avengers are brought back together after a prison break releases 40 villains back into the world. This prison break is caused by Electro, a villain who can harness the power of electricity. Electro was hired by Karl Lycos' people to break him out and return him to the safety of the Savage Land, a prehistoric land that exists in Antarctica. However, as soon as the Avengers track down Karl Lycos, they find a rogue S.H.I.E.L.D. battalion, illegally stockpiling weapons materials. One of the key things we learned in that story? S.H.I.E.L.D. has been up to no good. According to S.H.I.E.L.D.'s files, a lot of the villains a part of that prison break were supposed to be dead. So we're left to question, is S.H.I.E.L.D. behind the prison break? I guess we'll have to keep reading to find out. This video starts immediately where the last one left off. Over 40 villains on the loose, and the new Avengers are back together to clean up the mess. However, the story goes much deeper than a simple cleanup mission. MCU fans out there, you may want to pay attention to this video. With Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness now released, the MCU has now officially premiered its own version of the Illuminati. We will get into who the Illuminati are, but just to be aware, they're about to make their first appearance in the next couple of minutes. So stay tuned. The subject of this video, however, is the Sentry. You'll remember from the last video where I said the Sentry is one of the most powerful beings in the entire universe. And now he's on the loose. But what makes matters really strange, and pay attention to this, no one on Earth knows who he is. It's almost like he's appeared out of thin air. So he's ridiculously powerful and a complete stranger to everyone on the planet. If that got your curiosity going, then have no fear. This entire video is dedicated to that man. I think I've said enough for now. So without further ado, let's continue the story of the New Avengers. It's a beautiful sunny day in New York City as Iron Man quickly races off from Avengers Tower. He reaches a rundown, deserted building that is seemingly devoid of life. Before entering, Iron Man runs an environment scan which reveals that a group of individuals are waiting for him inside. Iron Man is about to enter the secret meeting of the Illuminati, a group of individuals secretly responsible for the well-being of the planet, and they do so in complete seclusion from the rest of the world. The group is comprised of Doctor Strange, Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four, Professor Xavier of the X-Men, Black Bolt of the Inhumans, and Namor the Submariner. The group confront Tony on the reformation of the Avengers, to which Tony replies, "It happened yesterday." Namor, displeased at this news, tells Tony that the entire point of the Illuminati is to make decisions that affect the world together, and not without discussing it first. Tony tells the Illuminati the current state of events. 45 prisoners are on the loose, and the new Avengers have been tasked to round them up. However, this is not why Tony called the group together. There is a much more important matter to discuss, something that worries him deeply. Who here has heard of the man known as the Sentry? As the blazing hot sun scorches down on Long Island, a young woman has her late afternoon tanning session interrupted. Towering over her is a man by the name of Dirk Garthwaite, one of the escaped prisoners of the raft. As he looms over the young girl, he asks for his belongings back. Scared and confused, the girl leads Dirk to the basement of her house. There is only one reason why he has arrived: her father. Locked within the basement is a collection of technology that used to be owned by supervillains. The girl tells Dirk that her father is a collector of sorts. Spotting his gear amongst the collection, Dirk smashes the glass and makes off with his equipment. Now suited up as the Wrecker, Dirk forces the girl to drive him out of the city. He needs a way out of New York, and he won't take no for an answer. However, as the garage door opens, Dirk looks on in surprise as he's met with the sudden appearance of the new Avengers. Wolverine, Luke Cage, Spider-Man, and Spider-Woman stand at the ready as they ask Dirk to come quietly. The sun beats down on the Nevada desert as a heavy battalion of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents gather in full force in front of a mysterious cave. They are joined by Captain America and Iron Man, who nervously approach as tensions run high. Knowing that the next sequence of events could end in the deaths of everyone present, the team wearily approach the cave. Inside, they come face to face with Robert Reynolds, the mysterious man with the powers of a god, the man known as the Sentry. After the prison break, the Sentry had disappeared. That is, until now. As they approach, the Sentry peers up at them. He tells them they need to leave now before it's too late. He's coming. They cannot tell whether his eyes are filled with hate or fear. Captain America, keeping his calm demeanor, asks who is coming. Speaking as if the weight of the world is on his shoulders, the Sentry simply replies, "The Void." If you're curious about the identity of the Void, do not worry. The next few issues will explain all of this. Just remember one thing, wherever the Sentry goes, the Void follows. Why? We don't know yet. Iron Man looks to Captain America in confusion. He has never heard of anyone or anything with the name the Void. The Sentry explains that whenever he uses his power, the Void senses this and finds him. He is the shadow that follows him to the ends of the earth. There is nowhere he can go where the Void cannot follow, and it was the Void who killed his wife. Beckoning to someone off in the shadows, Tony tells the Sentry this cannot be. His wife is alive and well. Whoever the Void is, he does not seem to exist, and he is not coming after them. Unsure of everything he's telling them, Tony asks the most important question yet. Just who are you really? A week earlier, a S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier flies amidst the clouds above Washington, D.C. Tony Stark and Logan, the mutant called Wolverine, are discussing Logan's potential recruitment into the Avengers. Logan tells Tony that the Avengers are too good for someone like him. Recruiting him will only bring down the organization's image, something that cannot happen after the events involving Wanda. What are these events involving Wanda? Well, 6 months before the events of this story, Wanda Maximoff, also known as the Scarlet Witch, had a complete meltdown, which resulted in the destruction of the Avengers. Several members were killed, and the Avengers had no choice but to disband. If you want a full summary of these events, check out this video. Tony tells Logan that times are different now. The Avengers need to evolve. If someone like Logan were on the team, they may not have dealt with the Wanda situation in the first place. Logan listens on as Tony makes his case. Besides, what's better than cleaning your reputation than fighting side by side with Captain America? Wolverine flies through the air, crashing into a set of garbage cans as the Wrecker faces off against the new Avengers. After fighting off the members one by one, the Wrecker is confronted by Spider-Woman. She tells him she doesn't want to fight, she just wants to talk. She asks him how come he has all this power and he squanders it on a life of crime. What a complete waste. Confused, the Wrecker backs down. He tells her that no one has ever asked him this before. Realizing her plan worked, Spider-Woman tells the Wrecker it's time. At which point Wolverine re-enters the fight, using his deadly adamantium blades to cut him down to size. Before he can regain his footing, Luke Cage picks up the Wrecker's crowbar and smashes him across the face, causing the villain to fly into the path of Spider-Man's webbing. One prisoner down, 44 more to go. But the Avengers are not offered any downtime as Iron Man quickly calls the team. There is an emergency, and they're all needed in Hartford, Connecticut. Back inside the Nevada desert cave, Robert Reynolds' wife, Lindy, pleads with him to come home. He's been missing for weeks and has been on a steady mental decline. Robert defies her. He watched Lindy die. He was there when the Void killed her. This is nothing but a game to lure him back out into the open. Stepping back in shock, Lindy watches on as Robert's paranoia sinks to depths she has never witnessed before. His mental faculties regressing by the second. Determined to put an end to this game, Robert lashes out at all those in attendance. He won't let the Void get the better of him. Not again. Summoning a massive amount of energy, the Sentry angrily explodes into light, filling up the cave and blinding all those present. As the light is expelled from the cave, the Sentry is gone. Lindy begins to cry as she witnesses the love of her life fall apart at the seams. Crazed and more powerful than any of them know, it is only a matter of time before disaster is imminent. Robert Reynolds lies back on his recliner, gently snoring as the TV static washes over him. Suddenly, a mysterious woman appears on the television. She tells him not to panic. She's only here to help. But he has to head outside immediately. Scared and confused, Robert heads over to the front door. He has no idea what's happening or why this woman has visited him. Stepping outside, Robert is overcome with shock as he's confronted by the Avengers, the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and the Inhumans. After hearing the case from Iron Man, the Illuminati have gathered their teams to confront one of the biggest potential threats to ever face the planet. Falling to his knees and breaking down emotionally, Robert tells the group that they just made a big mistake. The Void is now coming, and there's nothing they can do to stop him. At the previous meeting of the Illuminati, Tony brings up the identity of the Sentry. Why has no one on Earth heard of this guy? Where did he come from? Tony mentions that Matt Murdock visited the raft during the night of the prison break, on orders from Reed Richards. Reed, completely thrown off by this statement, tells Tony that he hasn't talked to Matt Murdock in months. He has no idea what's going on. Reed begins to frantically search his files, expecting nothing of significance to appear. However, his files display a number of written reports regarding the Sentry. Reed looks on in disbelief. But why can't he remember writing these reports? Professor Xavier chimes in with the explanation that is on everyone's mind. Someone has been tampering with Reed's memory. Back in Connecticut, Robert Reynolds begins to cry as terror fills his eyes. The Void is here. Large black tendrils shoot down from the sky, chaotically throwing the heroes about the property. Robert looks on in horror as his worst nightmare comes true. The Void is back and he's going to kill everybody. Turning around, Robert notices two individuals standing behind him, Reed Richards and Emma Frost, one of the most powerful psychics in the world. They construct a force field around them, shielding them from the ongoing fight with the Void. If you only stick to the MCU, then you likely haven't heard of Emma Frost yet. However, she's a huge player in the X-Men universe, and someone every one of you will know one day soon. For now, just know this. She's one of the most powerful telepaths on the planet, terrifyingly powerful. She's also super hot. Reed tells Robert that they can help him, but he needs to calm down and listen to what he's about to show him. On a small handheld monitor, an old recording of Robert plays. He explains his chilling reality. Formerly one of the greatest superheroes the world has ever known, something has erased the memory of him from the world's collective consciousness. However, he has no idea how this happened, as his memory of himself is also fragmented. In a moment of clarity, Robert created this video in hopes that someone can solve the mystery of the world's repressed memory of him. He pleads for someone to save him from this nightmare. Outside the force field, the void grows larger and more powerful by the second. They need to fix Robert, and they need to fix him now, before it's too late. Understanding that he desperately needs help, Robert tells Emma to do what she can. Emma, preparing Robert for the fight ahead, tells him to open his mind to her. He lets out a scream as they jump inside his subconscious mind. Finding themselves within Robert's psyche, Emma discovers a startling truth. Massive sections of his brain have been completely sealed off. After prying around his memories, Emma notices one that's been blacked out. Someone has deliberately removed a specific memory. Using her powers of telepathy, she unlocks the memory for them to see. As Robert lies on his back, barely conscious, he sees two shadowy figures discussing what they have done. One of the men, known as Mastermind, explains that he used his powers to make Robert Reynolds and the world forget who the Sentry is. Okay, this backstory is incredibly important and confusing, so I'm gonna hold your hand and walk you through this. Mastermind is a mutant. He has the ability to hijack your brain. He can make you see, feel, or believe anything he wants you to. So let's put this into the context of our story. Mastermind was hired to take the Sentry down. He does this by hijacking Robert's brain and implanting an idea, Inception style. The world will not remember the Sentry. Robert's powers are so vast, he can essentially do anything, including make the world believe things. So with this idea in his head, the Sentry made the world forget his existence. Also, Mastermind convinced the Sentry that whenever he uses his powers, the void will come and destroy Earth. This explains why Robert has always been terrified to use his powers. However, it's important to note that the Mastermind did not create the void. He just manipulated Robert to summon the void whenever he became the Sentry. Think of it as punishment for trying to be a hero. It's a bit confusing, I know, but hopefully that helps explain things. Completely shocked by this realization, Robert begins panicking. There is only one man who is vile enough to commit such an act. Before he can explain who it is, Robert runs off in fear, leaving Emma alone within his psyche. However, Emma suddenly hears a loud bang. With Robert missing, there's only one other place he could be. Robert, crazed and delirious after finding out the truth, takes full control of the void and begins beating down on the force field. Another shocking truth hits the Avengers. The void hasn't been following Robert Reynolds. The void is Robert Reynolds. The Sentry and the void are two sides of a single coin. All right, time for a recap. If you're a bit confused, that's okay. When I first read this story, it took me a while to wrap my head around it. So I will do my best to simplify so far. The Sentry is by far the most powerful human to ever have lived. And for years, he was loved and adored. However, after being captured by the enemy, he was forced to make the world forget his existence. Now, according to everyone on Earth, the Sentry doesn't exist. To make matters worse, Robert Reynolds is also the void. Two entities within one person. Yin and yang, good and evil. Unfortunately for Robert, he cannot separate the two. So his life is a constant struggle with keeping the void at bay. Okay, all caught up. Above the fight with the void, Robert's wife Lindy waits aboard a SHIELD helicarrier. In complete disbelief regarding the events surrounding her husband, Lindy looks down in sadness. She would do anything to have her husband back. Feeling like her head is about to explode, Lindy puts her hands to her temples. A sudden feeling of weightlessness begins washing over her. Before she can react, Lindy loses consciousness, falling quickly to the floor with a thud. Several seconds later, Lindy awakens in a white room. Is it white? Or is it nothing? Confused, she begins looking around for an answer. As she turns around, she sees a woman approaching her. It's Emma Frost. Emma tells her she had no other choice. They are running out of time. She was able to pull Lindy's own consciousness out of her body and transfer it to her current location, within her husband Robert. Emma explains that they managed to figure out why Robert and the world forgot who he was, but their work is far from over. Robert, overcome with emotion following the unlocking of his memories, has given in to the persona of the Void. He needs to calm himself down before he does irreparable damage. Emma informs Lindy that she might have a way to stop Robert's emotional breakdown. To do this, she needs to borrow a shared memory from Lindy, one that is strong enough to get Robert's attention and coax him out of hiding. Understanding the severity of the situation and wanting nothing more than her husband to be free from this nightmare, Lindy agrees to the plan. She has the perfect memory to lure Robert out. It's a cold but beautiful night as two adolescents sit among a rocky shore, bathed in the light of a full moon. The young woman sits nervously. A tranquil smile forms among her lips. She is simply happy. The young Robert looks over and smiles. Sensing the question on her mind, he assures her that she's the first girl that he's ever brought to this spot. His assurance soothes her. Feeling the energy in the air and overcome with emotion, the young Lindy looks longingly at Robert. Meeting her gaze, Robert lets out a laugh and asks what she's looking at. Realizing she's looking at the love of her life, Lindy pulls Robert in close. Under the glow of the full moon, they share their first kiss. A smile parts Robert's lips as he remembers the greatest moment of his life, the moment he found true love. Emma kneels down beside him, reassuring him that none of this is his fault. He's a victim and should not blame himself for any of it. Emma tells a now calm Robert that she knows Mastermind very well. Even though he's been long dead, she knows how to reverse the damage he's done. She can bring back all his repressed memories and reclaim his former life as the world's greatest superhero. However, she cannot make the world remember who he is. To purposely mess with the world's minds would be an unforgivable sin. Robert will need to start with a blank slate, a fresh start for a new superhero. Saddened by this, Robert realizes there's no other way. He agrees to the fresh start. He also tells Emma the identity of the man responsible for hiring Mastermind, a man called the General. He swears to Emma that he will find him and make him pay for what he's done. Robert and Emma wake up from their journey into Robert's psyche. The heroes surround them, beaten but still alive. The Void seemingly dispersed with the end of Robert's emotional breakdown. Emma, prepared to end this nightmare once and for all, places her hands on Robert's face. It's time for him to reclaim himself. And as a blanket of blinding light washes over them, the Sentry is reborn. As the Avengers welcome back a man they once called a friend, Robert smiles uncontrollably as the love of his life rushes into his arms. Robert and Lindy embrace as they prepare for the next chapter of their life. The nightmare is finally over. Or is it? And there you have it. an introduction to one of the most overpowered heroes in all of Marvel Comics. One of the biggest questions I get is, will the Sentry ever appear in the MCU? Yeah. Although I think they'll simplify his backstory for the big screen, it would make absolutely no sense not to include Robert Reynolds. Everything I just showed you is just the start of his story, and trust me, it gets ridiculously insane. If the Sentry tickles your curiosity, then you might want to stay tuned to this story. I promise you it'll be worth it. As for the next video in this series, we will introduce you to someone you might already be familiar with, the Ronin. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's Hawkeye, it's Hawkeye. It's not Hawkeye, okay? He's dead. So stay tuned and we'll find out. Bye.